a starry night. Intergalactic light so bright. Dakota show so out of sight. Blast off now, take flight. Aliens and rockin' tunes, country beats under the moons. Space dust in my boots, all new. Gigolo's hosting soon. Welcome to the galaxy. Radio waves so wild and free. Tune and feel the energy. With Dakota ride the beat. When it's been new every song.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Dakota Franson. This is Intergalactic Gigolo. I hope you are having a fantastic day. I hope you had a fantastic weekend, whatever the situation may be. I hope you are just doing well. Thank you for tuning in. Now, last week, I wanted to discuss a case where some personal lines had been crossed. And for those of you wondering what I mean, try to look back on the previous episode to hear more details. But basically, it was just one of the cases why I choose to draw a line in my own supernatural experiences, as well as still trying to maintain a level of privacy for the people I help along the way. Because, let's face it, more often than not, what brings your attention to the supernatural, what makes you aware that it's even real, the circumstances behind it can be rather traumatic. In fact, this is heavily tied to mental health, and that's why I've always tried to give sort of a fun approach where, we can still talk serious matters, but we're not afraid to have a laugh about things. Everyone stands on a level playing field. Everyone is equal to themselves, to each other. There's no one that stands above the rest. It's hard to maintain that level, especially with clashing egos, hurt feelings, and people just basically thinking that you can judge an entire person's character based on the two-dimensional surface you're seeing the show on. I'm sorry, but people tend to be a little bit more complex than what's shown on your phones. And today, sorry, forgot to turn down my phone. And today's recording is August 25th, 2024. It is 2:51 a.m. Mountain Time for me. And I wanted to do something a little different with this episode. I had a viewer write in wanting to get some advice. They didn't go into a lot of personal details, which I totally respect. But this email reminded me of quite a few conversations I've had. And that's why, perhaps a little bit too much in a morbidly sense, I named this episode Conversation with Lost Souls. Because in dealing with everything that's going on in the world, the political state going on right now, family situations, life situations, it's hard to feel a little lost because, let's face it, the old school systems just don't work anymore. They just don't. That's a fact. And we're all trying to scramble, trying to understand what's going on, what can we do, just trying to get there day by day. And let's face it, situations with inflation and perhaps medical issues, if that's something you're dealing with, there seems to be a lot of one step forward, two step back kind of moments, right? It can be kind of overwhelming, and it's easy to convince yourself that you're doing a hell of a lot worse than you actually are. It is easy to get into that mentality. It is easy to panic. It is easy to think that, you may be annoying somebody, or you may think somebody's going to judge you if you tell them a certain story. Believe me, I get it. I still question my sanity with everything I go through. Even though I have managed on quite a few occasions to actually get not only eyewitness testimony, but tangible evidence to back that, something's going on. And I'm more than happy to show some tips and tricks on how I do that so that some of y'all can do that. So maybe it'll help you out. One thing I do want to elaborate real quick before I get into this email is that don't force it. Let things flow naturally. If you cannot necessarily bring evidence to the table to back whatever it is it may be you need to talk about, it doesn't necessarily have to be anything supernatural related. This can apply to just about every aspect of life. Sometimes managing to get evidence to back your story, it's difficult. It is difficult. And I'm not necessarily going to kibosh anyone for saying first if they admit that they don't have any evidence to back up what they're saying, because I get the struggle. And I know, especially if you're dealing with like ghosts and UFOs, that unless you happen to have a camera or something running 24/7, pointed exactly at the right place at exactly the right time, these things can move a lot faster than a lot of people can register. Hey, that's something weird. Maybe I should take a picture. Or in more common life occurrences, you may have witnessed something awful, just so outside your norm that you are essentially in a state of shock. And by the time your brain calms down just a bit, just to realize what the hell is going on, the situation's already over, done with, and everything involved has already fled the scene. Now, you can give your eyewitness testimony, but that is when it comes to research from a scientific basis, just the eyewitness testimony alone is considered the lowest form of evidence because of how easy it is for someone to get caught up in the moment and misinterpret what they saw. Their brain in such a state of panic, it's such a fight or flight response that whatever stimuli might have been there. Let's take an instance of a police shooting. Trust me, that's kind of a morbid example because we have had 2 gang-related shootings in my area within the last week, but it's something that it needs to be addressed. And with this situation, something I often point out when there's a lot of controversy surrounding police officers, that there's been an armed shooting. The thing is, a lot of these officers, the adrenaline is usually pumping so much through their system, and it's something that's very difficult to control. And a majority of the critics are people that have no experience in dealing with high risk situations. There's the problem right there. People who have no clue what they're talking about are usually the ones that are speaking out the loudest. But they're in such high risk fight or flight situations that someone could literally pull out a banana like something out of a damn cartoon. And the officer's so hyped up, so jacked up on what's been going on, they think, hey, this person's pulling out a gun. They ain't going to have enough. In the time it takes them to evaluate whether or not it's an actual gun, somebody could lose their life. Somebody could get seriously injured. And that's going to be on them. Not just from a professional standpoint, but from a moral standpoint. If somebody innocent got hurt while they're on the job, they may be a veteran on the force, and they may have learned to sort of compartmentalize the situation a bit to where it doesn't necessarily affect them as much, but it's still going to affect them. It happens. Now, I'm saying as someone who has grown up around emergency service personnel to where I pretty much have a 24 hours, 7 days a week live feed of the crazy stuff that happens in my area. That a lot of stuff that don't even make the news. Now, granted, the main news crew that's in my area have always historically sucked at their jobs. But I digress. I know I kind of went off on a little bit of a tangent there, and I apologize. As a lot of you know, it ain't that hard for me to do. So you know what? Before we get into this email, I think we're going to play some music. I think we're going to play some music to go with kind of tonight's theme of trying to balance the crazy with the normal. Now, I am probably the worst person to be giving advice on this, but I can share my experiences and hopefully, maybe something about what I say helps you. That is the only thing I hope with bringing this stuff up. So, ladies and gentlemen, Starlight Amnesia.
Living two worlds, night and day. Spells and schoolwork I must play. People stare and people talk, but they don't know the path I walk. Potion books and textbooks mixed. In this life, no quick fix. Balancing normal and the strange. Mind and magic rearrange. Magic and mundane, I juggle tight. In the dark and in the light. Finding peace in both the worlds. One's a secret never told. Casting spells and taking notes. Silent whispers no one knows. In a realm where those don't fit, judgment falls, I won't quit. Late night skies and early suns, dual lives, but I'm just one. Rising strong from out the haze, living free in my own ways. Magic and mundane, I juggle tight. In the dark and in the light. Finding peace in both the worlds. One's a secret never told. I went to worlds night and day. Spells and schoolwork I must play. People stare and people talk, but they don't know the path I walk. Casting spells and taking notes. Silent whispers no one knows. In a realm where those don't fit, judgment falls, never told. Living two worlds night.
Almost forgot to turn it off in time. I know that song was a little bit more Harry Potter based than I liked, but keep a little bit of variety. Give this let this beautiful thing we're building here have a let this my fucking stuttered. Let this beautiful thing we're trying to build here let it be something that's somebody anybody can find a little bit of something just for them. You know what I mean? We want to make sure everybody feels welcome. So you Potterheads, if you enjoyed that one, there you go. So down to the email. Let's see. Let's get this up here. There we are. Now I'm just gonna read this email off it as I received it. When I read it, I kind of got the impression that this individual may have not been sure what to say or how to word things. So I have all I'll say it. I got a feeling that you had a chat GPT write this. And I'm not judging. I'm not judging. I get it. Sometimes I need a little bit of help with my writing too. It happens. No judgment here. I get it. It's a tool. It's a tool. But all right. We're gonna get into this. So the message reads, "Hi Dakota. I hope this message finds you well. I've been a fan of your podcast for years and have always appreciated your unique insights and the way you navigate the supernatural world. I'm reaching out because I could really use your advice. I have been trying to balance a regular civilian life with the supernatural experiences I've been having, And I'm often concerned about being judged or misunderstood if I go to share some of the things I've experienced. I know that you would probably not, excuse me, I know you would probably not judge, but I get you also do try to be skeptical, and I respect that. I love to hear how you manage this balance, especially with your own experiences. Also, I hope your baby niece and girlfriend and your star family are doing great. I know you mentioned them a few times in past episodes and just wanted to send my best wishes. Thank you for so much for your time and all the amazing content you create. I look forward to hear from you. Best regards, Tina. Well, Tina, uh, I do seriously want to thank you for your message, and I extend this invite to anybody who is wanting to, reach out and talk. I try to be nice, but can I just say one thing? Can I just say one thing? Can you, if you go to reach out to me, I don't mind. But there's two things, right? Just remember, one, I do have a regular civilian job to help, pay my bills as well as bootstrap the company when the funds aren't necessarily coming in like I would hope. I'm financing this all out of pocket and based on, the little bits of revenue I earned from monetization as well as the funds we racked up from book sales. I would love to make this full time and maybe get some other people involved, but we're slowly building up to it. But remember, I do have a regular civilian job, and like this person, like Tina, obviously is aware. I do have a baby niece I help take care of, and I have my own life outside of this. So I may not be able to answer your message right away. And also, if you do go to message me, can you just try to say something a little bit more than hello? Because a lot of spam messages will just start out like that. I try to be friendly. I know I've made a little bit of a history of kind of firing off, getting upset with people, blah 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 blah. I get that. That one's on me. Just just I don't mind having a conversation, but I gotta invest my time in my other projects. I can't just be sitting around answering text messages all day. I'm not my fucking sister. All right, so reason why I chose this email is because there is, like I said, it reminds me a lot of several different conversations I've had with people who are all basically trying to learn the same thing. Basically, just trying to figure out how to understand things that are happening to them, how they go about talking with their family who may already have their kind of biases towards certain subjects. And, they're feel of being judged or ridiculed for the things they're talking about, or they just flat out question their own sanity and just don't want to bring it up out of fear of having people just walk out of their life thinking that that person needs to be committed to a mental institution. Because even though the conversation in regards to the supernatural as a whole, UFOs, ghosts, whatever the situation may be, cryptids, it's not as much as taboo anymore. I mean, let's face it, here in the US, we had, I just got to thinking about it in regards to the election. I find it funny that for an election, for the year before an election, as we're literally watching conspiracies come to life, that we have at least two candidates who are direct descendants of some of the major conspiracies out there that led us to this point. You know what I mean? I just find that kind of funny. But anyway, in regards to this email, now I'm going to reiterate before I continue. I know you probably can tell in once this gets put on the air, but I just had to pause my recording real quick and I'll edit it in post. But I had to get something to drink real quick to calm this cough. Got me some tea. Anyway, with this email, I feel like I should make at least one little disclaimer, and that is everyone's journey is going to be a little different. Some things I say may not necessarily work out for you, but in the same light, it's us as a whole coming together, talking about our experiences, maybe helping each other out a little bit. That's what we're supposed to do. Because, maybe, I may not be able to physically tell you something that would help you, but getting that conversation going may help you. It just may help you get the mind going so you can think. But here's the first thing I want to address. You didn't really go into a lot of detail about what's going on, so I'm gonna just kind of go off of my own feeling about what you mean. I get it on the dot. Awesome. If I'm off the mark, sorry. Anyway, so the main thing I noticed, and the one thing that kind of stuck out to me is that you feel like you're going to be judged, for talking about your experiences. Maybe it's your work or friends, family, or a significant other. I don't know the situation. Again, this person didn't exactly go into a lot of detail. But here's the thing, right? People are going to have their own interpretations of things, regardless of what we do. And some things that I've found to be kind of annoying with a lot of groups, and I don't think they realize that they're doing it. But their approach is a lot like, I mentioned this on the last episode, the crazy religious auntie who tries to force going to church every Sunday on the family, saying that, oh, but I want to save them from hell. You just want to go to hell. Try to gaslight, make you feel guilty, all that. The tones of how they talk about trying to convince their family members that, hey, this stuff is real, you know, it strikes the same chords. It may not necessarily play the same song, but anybody with a musical background can tell you that a majority of major hit songs is just the combination of the same four chords, different combinations of the same four chords that help make a good majority of some of the most popular songs ever. Remember that. The main thing that's going to speak out more than trying to convince people that this stuff is real is if you tell your story and that's it. You just tell your story. You can try to look for advice on how to deal with things. It's going to be a good idea it will be a good idea to leave yourself open for a little bit of criticism in the event that somebody hears what you're talking about, recognizes that it may not necessarily be something supernatural, but it can be you can go through a process of elimination just to make sure you're not making something out of nothing. Or worst case scenario, because this is still a very real possibility, that there isn't something physically going on that could be causing legitimate harm to you, because that can also be a possibility. There's so many different, for instances, so many different examples I can give that majority of people would probably get tired of listening to me turn off this show and go turn on something else. And I wouldn't blame them. But as far as trying to balance that you're having these things happen, you know, I don't know how far, I think I would know who you are. I think I know roughly about when you found me. So I have a rough idea of what you may be familiar with as far as my own stories. Like I said, to the rest of the people of the audience, this individual didn't exactly go into a whole lot of detail. So that's leaving a lot of guesswork on my part. And you're probably familiar with some of the stories I mentioned where I'm going off to my, civilian job, and all of a sudden there's shadow apparitions walking about, and things levitating off of shelves, to where even my coworkers are like, Dakota, what are you doing? And the only response I can really give them is, do you really want to know? You know what I mean? And I'll be honest, when some of the more extreme examples was taking place, some rather nasty situations were unfolding. I can give you one example where I was dealing with this case involving a certain shadow being more popularly known as the Hat Man. And I toted off this theory about who we may actually be, and I'm thinking because of the violent reaction, I hit something on the mark. So there got to be points where all of a sudden people would start seeing these weird shadows moving about, and they would, yeah, I'm not just talking about being cast off the walls and nobody, and they're not, nothing's there to be blocking the light to make those shadows. No, these beings looked like they were completely made of shadow. Even the security cameras picked up on it. This was getting to the point there was electronics interference. Like I said, there was things just levitating on off the shelf. Not necessarily being thrown, but it's as if somebody was just trying to grab it off the shelf, take it to the middle of the walkway to where it couldn't have just fallen over. None of that. Take it to the middle of the walkway and just drop it. Just enough for them to say, I'm here, motherfucker. And I mean, when the situation started to get resolved, there was points where I was hearing this high pitched just screeching in my ear. And it was physically painful. Then I noticed a couple other people come walking out and they're hearing it too. They're thinking it's coming from the intercom systems, and there's in fact some sort of screech coming through it, some sort of staticky screech. Like whatever was fucking with me was causing interference with the intercom systems, and the sound and the wires were actually picking up that sound. It was weird, man. But for some reason, I had a major reaction to where I'm literally covering my ears, ducking away, trying to get away from the sound. Like, what in the actual hell is going on? I leave at the end of my shift, and all of a sudden, there's lights in the sky. Now, granted, there might be a couple smart Alex in the audience who may be familiar with the fact that I do work the night shift, and normally, if I get my work done early enough, I go home early, which for me, going home early is 3 o'clock in the morning. So obviously, unless there's some serious clouds cover, there's rain or snowstorm, whatever the situation may be, obviously there's going to be a few lights in the sky because there's going to be stars out. And guess what? I'm not just talking about stars. I'm talking about stars you look at, say, oh, that's kind of pretty looking. I wonder what star that is. Then all of a sudden, well, it's like the second it realizes you acknowledged it, all of a sudden it just disappears. And you even see a little bit of a motion trail to it. Now, in that particular instance, we learned later that we had extraterrestrial reinforcements for that particular case, which was good because had we had not had that backup, somebody was going to end up dead. Now, I'm seriously hoping that none of these instances that you're experiencing are as severe, as dramatic. Yeah, but I do get it. When you have a certain amount of experiences and they become so often, yeah, like it's almost like you're a literal magnet for high strangeness, as some researchers call it. It does become a part of you, becomes a part of who you are. And there's still people that say, "Oh, Dakota, it's wonderful that you have all these experiences, but why are you focusing so much energy on them? You should live a normal life." Trust me, I've tried. And it's not like I've just sat around waiting for, my girlfriend I'm with now to appear. I've been with other ladies. I've done other things that weren't meaning to be supernatural involved at first, but somehow it always leaked into it. Now, I've had a couple psychic medium friends, and even my old co-host. My old co-host at one point said that I should get an exorcism because he didn't believe that this was aliens. He believed that I was being tempted by demons and all this, and said you should get an exorcism because that'll make it go away. Shut up, you stupid fucker. Number one, I've actually dealt with demonic possession cases, and usually the demons don't exactly give a shit if you live or die in those circumstances. That's the truth. And going back to other people trying to say, oh, you should try to live a normal life. Trust me, I've tried to walk away. I've had psychic mediums say, oh, Dakota, you need to establish firm boundaries. Yeah, and if you were truly involved like you say you are, you would know that these things, they don't necessarily give a shit about your boundaries and will do what they can to get your attention. And unfortunately, my ass, I've never been officially tested for it, but the gene marker for it is there for ADHD like tendencies. So if something happens that gets my attention, my ass is going to go investigate. Even if I have this suspicion that whatever I'm looking at could potentially be dangerous. And I've lived with this stuff for most of my life. To me, this, yes, I do still get excited when I see stuff. Trust me. I'd be sitting outside having a phone call with my girlfriend. We're both kind of tired of going through some stuff. So, and, you know, we're both busy to the point we can't drive to meet up in person. So we're going on the phone call. I'm sitting outside just trying to enjoy the night air, and all of a sudden she's laughing at me because I'm geeking out watching something flying in the sky that ain't no meteor, that ain't no plane. And had I not been on the phone with her, I probably could have got a couple more photos. I actually did manage to catch a couple photos of that particular craft. And if you followed me for a while, you probably know what incident I'm talking about. But in the same light, this stuff has happened to me so often that, in spite of people's assumptions that, oh, he only ever deals with the negative stuff, let's stay away from him, there's a lot of good ones. I grew up in a haunted small town. Small town, less than 200 people. It used to be sort of the main, it used to be, how do I put this? In the days of the American Wild West, let's put it like that. The small town that I grew up in used to be sort of the housing quarters for a nearby mining town that no longer exists. And the story goes that a good majority of the Old West remnants, as it were lost in a major fire. That's the story I've always been told. I've tried to look up records for it, but couldn't really find too much. Even with some of my media contacts who were trying to build up like history of the local area and who would reach out to me because they knew about this ghost hunting stuff that I do and figured that I could probably point them in the direction of some interesting stories that I happen to come across. So, this stuff has been a part of my life since I was born. And for those of you who follow the ET side of it, it's been around much longer than that. So, this stuff is a part of my life and I've accepted it. And sometimes when there's not a whole lot of post production done, if you listen carefully to when I go quiet, where it seems like my stutter's kicking in and I'm having a hard time getting the word out, if you listen carefully to the background, there's other voices. And it's like I'm stopping because my subconscious is picking up that somebody else is speaking. And it's happened on multiple occasions. And it's why sometimes when I've gone on with people that are a little bit too chatty for my liking, I get kind of frustrated because I could be picking up on something, but they're more interested in hearing their own voice that they essentially drown it out. And we could have had some very interesting material for the show. In fact, in the house I'm living in right now, some people have noticed that there is sometimes the sound of oxygen tanks and a woman who seems to be having issues breathing. I have successfully managed to identify that those manifestations as the previous owner of the house who actually passed away before we moved in. And honestly, she just pokes by, and the worst thing that she's done, quote unquote, worst thing, was trip off the baby monitors because she was trying to say hello to my little niece, who's doing very well, by the way. We're at a point where, she's teething and some of the teeth are starting to break through. So, had a little bit of a rough patch, but we're working through it. But back to the email. Here's when it comes down to it, if you're wanting to truly embrace this side of you, and if you want to talk a little bit more in private, give me a little bit more details, you have my email, feel free. I'd be more than happy to chat. But don't stress yourself over how other people react. The second you go into something and you let other people's opinions, judgments affect your mindset going into it, regardless of what you do, it is very, very rare for those voices to actually be beneficial. It is very rare. One of the sort of business personalities I've been following for a few years now, who, I get a lot of my advice from, a lot of my insights from on how to try to run a business when in the state I'm in now. He points out something. It's Gary V. This is not like an official endorsement. Check him out. A lot of his stuff's very good. He makes a very valid point. The inner voice a lot of us have that seems to be, highly critical of us, says, "Oh, that's stupid. You'll never get it. You'll never be able to pull it off." Blah 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 blah. That voice. That irritating voice that just always tries to put you down. One of my favorite comedians, Christopher Titus, he's a little bit more on the edgier side. So I'm simply reciting this for historical accuracy. How he puts it in his special, I don't use that word simply because, well, I use it mostly for my niece's father. But if you heard the story of some of the crap he's pulled, you'd agree. But, that's a story for another time. Christopher Titus calls it the inner retard. That voice, and even he says it in his specials too, which you can find on YouTube. That voice, we didn't have that as kids. As young kids, we were happy, full of hope, excitement, thinking we can do whatever, we put our mind to. But that voice eventually creeped in. And where does that voice often come from? It comes from our parents, our teachers, family members that constantly put us down. And think about it, because everybody has those types of relatives. Has that voice ever done you any actual good? Now, you may be lucky. You may have somebody in your life that isn't necessarily critical of it, but tries to ensure that if you're going to do something, you do it smart. For me, that was my late grandfather. My uncles, my mother, my aunts, they would always say that my grandfather was kind of a hot ass. Had a major temper, you know, all this. And some of you who have followed the show for a while, like, gee, so is that where you get it from? A little bit. I'll be honest, a little bit. I've been working on it. God, sheesh. Trust me, I've been working on it, and those who stuck around long enough have noticed the difference. Anyway, for me, my grandfather, he was sort of a surrogate dad figure for me. And I didn't quite realize what he was doing until much later in life, until like a few years after his passing, that he was trying to make sure that I realized that I was potentially capable of doing something big. And if I'm not careful, I could potentially hurt others with it. Because he himself, my grandfather once told me, and I get now that this was sort of in one of his downward moods when he lost his life to cancer, and let's just say this was one of his moods where he was just not having a good day. There's one thing my grandfather truly regretted, and I think at least some of my relatives have heard me talk about this before because I've noticed a difference after I've said it. My grandfather once told me that one of the only things he ever regretted in life. One of the things, his only regrets in life was that his kids turned out like him. And that stuck with me. It's part of the reason why, I haven't made, finding a girlfriend, getting married, settling down, having kids. That's why that hasn't been a priority for me. Because I knew there was certain things going on in my head. Jesus Christ, this fucking cough. You would think I was a smoker. I'm not. But I knew there were certain things going on in this head that I had to get sorted because I did not want that going passing down to my kids. So, in my own unique, twisted world, when I learned that there were kids potentially coming from the future or whatever the situation ended up being, or whatever the case may actually be, as I should probably say, that for me was a sign of hope. A sign of hope and reassurance that whatever struggles that I'm going through, past, present, or future, somehow I was going to power through. And for me, that is a very unique gift. And I can say that with confidence, because if I wasn't a husband, a father that they wanted to have around in their life in some capacity, why did my daughter stop me from taking my own life? I talked about a case in the last episode where some bridges have started to mend a little bit, but a situation had gotten so bad that a daughter had lost the love for her father. And that is one of the greatest tragedies you will ever see in mankind, when a daughter loses that spark for her father, whoever the father figure may be. If a daughter loses that, something's seriously gone down. Maybe they realized there was a chance by intervening that it could become something better than what they were experiencing. Whatever the situation may be, I know in that moment when my daughter saved my life, stopped me from taking my own life, I knew that there was still time. I knew that there was still hope. There was still a chance. And it's through the lessons that we learned, walk in the shadows, observing the supernatural, because it's one of the greatest views of one's culture, one's mindset. You really want to understand how a society works, you can look at their mythologies, their beliefs, because that incorporates their mental states, their ability to share stories, the mediums in which they go to share those stories, and how it influences their day-to-day life. If you want to be able to find that balance, just simply accept that it's there. Accept that it's there. Let it create. If it inspires you to create, let it create. If it inspires you to go out, see the world, achieve your dreams, let it. And if people go to ask you what your story is, you tell them. You tell that story so that the effects that it has on you can ripple out into the rest of the world. No matter how traumatic it may be, as long as there's always light at the end of the tunnel, and you show nothing but love and respect for those you meet along the way, no matter at one point in the story you may be. Because that's all any of us are trying to do. We're trying to understand. We're trying to find purpose. We're trying to find places that we fit in. And guess what? If you feel like you are the weird one, you are the oddity, you are the anomaly, guess fucking what? I want you to remember this. I want you to think of this, right? Have you ever felt the need to research something that was part of your everyday life? Chances are not really. Because if it's part of your everyday life, think about it. As you're a kid, you're used to all your different your rules and the traditions of your household and the things that your parents do. And more often than not, you think that everybody else does the same thing, right? Until you go over to your friend's house and you learn that, oh, they do this instead, they do that instead, and this and that and this and that. Nothing's going to motivate you to explore that more than seeing something new, right? Tell your story because the weirdos are the reason why we learn so much. Because we're curious as to why that one stands out. Think about it. If everything is working, everything is normal, you just go about your day, you're not really going to give too much thought about it, are you? Now, if you see something out of the norm, you're probably going to wonder what is going on. And that's going to affect you. I've always said this, and there's science to back it up. Every single bit of stimuli we receive throughout our day, throughout our lives, affects our brains. And if we go out and we see variety, we see the world, our brain literally changes. And unfortunately, some rather shady types have learned that certain frequencies of light and sound have a bit of a stronger effect than others. And they have learned to weaponize it, to use it, to manipulate people. But still, that's because they went out and learned. They studied. They researched. Nothing, if you want to have that change to where you can talk about things freely, simply acknowledge that it's there. Acknowledge that it's there, and what can you do with it? That's it. Don't force it down anybody's throat. Humans are curious animals by nature. We want to learn. We want to explore. It's just that the systems, the schools, and how they teach people to parent their children is meant to try to beat this curiosity, this creativity out of them. And eventually, every now and then, one slips through the cracks. And those are the ones who have the most profound effect on others. Those are the weirdos that everyone eventually looks to for inspiration, for guidance, for ideas, or maybe just a little bit of entertainment. And even if you choose to share your message through some form of entertainment, you still can affect people. You can still change the course of their lives simply by you existing, experiencing, and going through this life in whatever form it may take, no matter how traumatic, no matter how dark and sad, no matter how wonderful and beautiful and vibrant, no matter the situation may be. Your existence, your experience, your humanity changes the world. So, what are you going to do with that? I cannot give you that answer. You want to find balance and explore these sides of you? Explore. Don't let the naysayers affect you. Take what they say, put it in a box, throw it. And there's going to be days where it's easy, and there's going to be days where it's rough. The second you give up, that's when the dark ones that want to repress us, want to control us, that's when they win. When you have a life where you get to experience utter strangeness, strange new things, you can become something even greater. Just do it. That's how you find, that's how you balance it. Because life is chaos. It simply is. Life is chaos. Life is suffering. It's one of the oldest teachings out there in many, many, many cultures. But what are you going to do with that suffering? What are you going to do with what is brought to you? Are you going to sit there and just bathe in the shitstorm so bad that you become, that it renders you blind from the fucking pink eye? Or are you going to do something? Because no one has the ability to change your life. The one thing that will change your life is how you respond to what happens. Because sometimes shit just happens out of the blue. Because we have the concept of free will, we have to sometimes deal with the actions of others. And some of you may be wondering, well, Dakota, what does that have to do with the supernatural? Because the supernatural is often an imprint of these experiences. It's a lasting legacy for after we die. It's our imprint upon the stars. It's our mark on the very creation of creation itself. That's the purpose. To explore, to create, to love. No matter what comes your way, simply acknowledge you want to balance a life of the supernatural and normal civilian life. Guess what? The deep talk truth of it is you will go to embrace the supernatural, a normal civilian life is out the door. And it is fucking liberating. Next week, we're going to switch things up a little bit. I'm going to tell you a story and maybe show you some interesting evidence of the multiverse itself. Dun, dun, dun. Like I said, life is truly strange, but it can truly be beautiful. And if you truly explore, being normal's out the door. And it is fucking liberating. Much love, take care, and I'll see you all next time. And I do seriously hope that answers your question about the email. Bye.
Ride to be when it's been new every song, jamming all night long. Neon lights where we belong, dance to cosmic from the hills of Tennessee to the Milky Way and beyond, turning lives and spirits free. Dakota's rocking on. From the hills of Tennessee to the Milky Way and beyond, turning lives and spirits free. Dakota.